Picture this. It's 1977. A giant radio telescope in Ohio is listening to the quiet hum of the universe. And then it picks something. Something so strange, so powerful, that an astronomer just scribbles, "Wow," on the data printout. For nearly 50 years, that one word has defined one of the greatest cosmic mysteries of all time. So, let's open up this case file.
So this is it. This is the smoking gun, right? But don't go looking for a decoded message here. This isn't "hello from space." This is simply a string of characters spit out by a computer representing a sudden, incredibly powerful, and totally baffling blast of radio waves from deep space.
And here's the crazy part. Just as suddenly as it arrived, poof, it was gone. The entire event was over in just 72 seconds. Now, that number is key because it's the exact amount of time the telescope would need to drift past a single, fixed point in the heavens as our planet turned, a perfect cosmic drive-by.
And this, of course, is the scribble that turned it all into a legend. You can just imagine the scene, right? Astronomer Jerry Amon is sifting through pages and pages of, well, mostly static, and then this just jumps off the page. He was so floored by how strong it was, he just circled it and wrote that one perfect word. And just like that, the signal had its name.
All right, so let's put on our detective hats. To really get why this one little event still keeps scientists up at night, we have to dig into the evidence. What exactly did that telescope record on that summer night?
The first clue is a big one, the frequency. The signal popped up right around 1420 megahertz. Now to astronomers, that's prime real estate. It's called the hydrogen line. Think of the entire radio spectrum as a huge, noisy party. Well, this frequency is the quiet corner, what SETI researchers call the water hole. If you wanted to send a clear message across the galaxy, that's exactly where you'd do it.
Now this is super important to get. 6EQJ5 is not alien language. It's more like a volume knob. Each number and letter just stands for how loud the signal was. The signal starts out weak, gets incredibly strong, peaking at that U, and then fades out again. It's a perfect little arc of intensity.
And that shape, that perfect little bell curve, that is the most compelling piece of evidence we have. The signal got stronger, peaked, and then got weaker in a way that perfectly matched a distant object coming into the telescope's view and then leaving it. It didn't look like a messy glitch from Earth. It looked, well, it looked real.
So, if it looks so perfect, case closed, right? ET finally called. Well, not so fast, because this is where our perfect cosmic crime starts to unravel. There are two huge problems with the evidence, and they're what make this whole thing so incredibly frustrating.
Okay, so a quick bit on how this telescope, the Big Ear, actually worked. It was pretty clever. It had two detectors, kind of like two ears. As the Earth rotated, the first ear would scan a piece of sky. And then, just a few minutes later, the second ear would scan that exact same spot. So any real distant signal should have gotten a double tap. See it once, then see it again. Simple.
But that is not what happened. Not at all. The wow signal came in loud and clear in the first detector. And then, when the second detector passed over the same spot a few minutes later, nothing. Absolute silence. It was there, and then it was gone. This right here is the single biggest technical flaw in the whole case.
So let's just boil it down to the two core problems. One, we have never ever heard this signal again. Not once, in decades of looking. And two, it was only seen by one of the telescope's two electronic eyes. In science, a one-off, unconfirmed event like this is a nightmare. It's tantalizing for sure, but also deeply, deeply frustrating. Okay, so with evidence this strange, you can bet the hunt for an explanation started immediately. It's time to round up the usual suspects and see which theories hold up.
First up, the most obvious culprit for any weird radio signal, us. Right? Could this have just been some random signal from an airplane, a satellite, or maybe something on the ground bouncing off a piece of space junk?
Well, it's possible, but it seems really unlikely. Remember, that 1420 megahertz frequency is an internationally protected no-fly zone for radio transmissions. But even more than that, the signal's clean, 72-second rise and fall just doesn't look like a typical, messy burst of human-made static. It just doesn't fit the profile.
All right, let's fast forward a few decades. A new suspect entered the scene, and this one got a ton of press. The idea was, what if the signal came from the huge cloud of hydrogen gas that surrounds a passing comet?
Now, this was a great idea because you could actually check it. But when astronomers ran the numbers, the theory fell apart pretty fast. For one, the comet they pointed to wasn't even in the right part of the sky at the time. And two, scientists agree a comet's hydrogen cloud would be way, way too faint to produce a signal that strong. So we can scratch the comet suspect off our list.
So if it wasn't us and it wasn't a comet, what are we left with? Well, this is where the story takes a fascinating modern twist. We have to start asking a new question. What if nature itself is capable of creating a perfect imposter?
See, a powerful, narrow signal like wow is the classic example of what we call a technosignature. It's the kind of thing that screams artificial. It's exactly what SETI is looking for. But what if our definition of what's natural has been too narrow all along?
And that brings us to something called a cosmic maser. The name sounds complex, but the idea is pretty wild. Imagine a huge cloud of gas out in space get zapped by a powerful blast of energy from something else. For just a brief moment, that cloud can light up and act like a giant natural laser, blasting out an incredibly intense beam of radio waves.
And this is where the story gets a 2024 update. Researchers went digging through old archives and found other, much fainter signals that look kind of similar. They're now proposing that maybe a sudden, violent event, like a massive flare from a dead star called a magnetar, could have hit a hydrogen cloud just right. And in doing so, it could have triggered a brief, intense, narrow signal that looks, for all the world, like it was engineered.
So, after almost half a century of digging, where does that leave us? Let's step back and summarize why this incredible cosmic case file is still wide open.
It really comes down to three things we just can't escape. 1, the signal's profile looks convincingly real. It's just too perfect. 2, the fact it was a one-and-done event, seen by only one detector, makes it impossible to ever confirm. And 3, we're now realizing that the universe might just be able to create perfect forgeries of alien signals.
And that leaves us with a final, fascinating thought. You know, the WOW signal started as a hunt for ET, but maybe its true legacy is that it's forcing us to ask a totally different question. Maybe the mystery isn't just, are we alone? But rather, are we just beginning to understand how truly bizarre and powerful the universe can be? For now, the case file remains very much open.